Can you still feel the gentle sway of the station wagon, windshield streaked with sunlight, and the scent of hot vinyl mixing with the freedom of endless summer highways? The 1970s road trip wasn't just about getting from point A to B. It was an experience sewn into the American spirit, alive with laughter, AM radio hits, and the hush of tires on asphalt as the miles drifted by. Families piled in, windows down, hair whipping in the breeze as maps unfolded across knees and landmarks became milestones in memory. Do you remember pulling over at a roadside diner, the clatter of forks and the promise of homemade pie, or the thrill of spotting a "See the largest ball of twine" sign? Back then, the journey was half the adventure, offering a rare freedom where the world felt bigger, yet closer. Were your bags packed with anticipation, eager for the next discovery around the bend? As we revisit those golden days of analog travel, let's see how the open road shaped who we are and how those journeys still steer our hearts, mile after mile. If you close your eyes, you might just hear it again, the creak of luggage being loaded, the snap of a clammy seatbelt, and that first satisfying turn of the ignition as the sun peeked over the horizon. To understand the magic of road trips in the 1970s, we have to wind back and look at where America was and how the open road became a nation's runway to adventure and togetherness. The roots of the 70s road trip didn't begin in that decade, but rather blossomed from seeds planted decades earlier, stretching deep into the post-war era when highways became the veins that connected a changing country. The 1950s and 1960s saw the rise of the Interstate Highway System, a bold vision signed into law by President Eisenhower in 1956. By the time the 70s rolled around, America's sprawl of new highways finally tied together distant states, small towns, and the mighty coasts with smooth strips of fast-moving promise. On these highways, the landscape shifted from local roads with every stoplight and pothole to long, sweeping ribbons inviting you to see how far you could go if you had the time and the gas money. The interstate system, sprawling over 46,000 miles, meant that a family in Ohio could set out for Yellowstone and actually get there in a few days. This transformation in infrastructure was itself a cultural turning point. But why did road trips capture the imagination of so many families in the 1970s in particular? Perhaps it was a response to the changes rippling across the nation. Gas was still relatively cheap at the start of the decade, and America's love affair with the automobile was stronger than ever, with airlines still a luxury and the costs of train travel on the rise, packing. The family station wagon or van became more than just an option. It was almost a rite of passage. Car culture defined the decade, and nothing embodied that more than putting the pedal down and heading into the unknown. Did you know that by 1972, roughly 1 in 3 American families owned a station wagon? It's no wonder the family truckster, whether a wood-paneled Ford Country Squire, an AMC Matador, or a Chevy Caprice, became the default chariot for these pilgrimages. These vehicles weren't just modes of transport, they were portable living rooms, picnic tables, and sometimes overnight hotels. Luggage racks were piled high with suitcases, coolers, fishing poles, and once in a while, Grandma perched between the kids in the back, telling stories as the miles slipped by outside. The social climate of the 70s also played its part. In a decade defined by both great change and uncertainty, economic troubles, political scandal, and shifting family dynamics, hitting the open road felt like one of the few places Americans could still find comfort and control. The road represented freedom, self-reliance, and the adventure many of us craved amid a rapidly transforming society. Hopping in the car didn't require planning months ahead. It just needed a map, a tank of gas, and a sense of curiosity. Do you remember those last-minute trips where the only itinerary was, let's see where the road takes us? Another fascinating detail. In 1973, the nation was rocked by the oil crisis, bringing fuel shortages and long lines at the pump. For a brief while, families had to rethink their vacation plans, carpool, or even postpone that annual escape. Yet when gas was available again, Americans flocked back to the highways. If anything, that temporary hardship made those journeys even sweeter. Every stretch of open road felt hard-won and precious. The culture of roadside America added flavor to the experience. Back then, maps were essential tools, and AAA TripTiks were prized, handy, spiral-bound booklets tracing your route, with each page unspooling a new leg of the adventure. There were no voice directions, no glowing screens. If you got lost, you'd pull over, unfold a map that never seemed to fit back quite right, and perhaps ask a local for help. Sometimes a wrong turn led to the day's most memorable discovery, an old general store, a curious flea market, a hidden stretch of lakeshore. Can you recall a time when getting lost felt like just another kind of found? Of course, the scenery along the way was every bit as important as the destination. Fields rolling past in golden waves, mountain passes threaded with dramatic turns, and the ever-enticing billboards for motor lodges, theme parks, and mom-and-pop diners. These were roads packed with promise. Each exit offered something new: a giant cement dinosaur, an all-you-can-eat buffet, or a neon-lit motel with a promise of clean beds and color TV. At one point in the 70s, there were over 60,000 independently owned motels dotting America's highways. Many were family-run establishments that would soon give way to the hotel chains we know today. Did you ever spend the night in one of these cozy roadside havens, blinking at the unfamiliar pattern of light under the door, listening to the distant hum of passing cars? There's another surprising truth. Road trips in the 70s weren't always about grand national parks or famous cities. Sometimes the destination was your cousin's place in the next state, a church retreat, or a quiet fishing spot only Dad knew about. It was about connecting with people, with nature, and with each other. The journey turned parents into navigators and children into backseat philosophers, gazing at endless farmland, counting license plates, or making up stories about the families in the cars passing by. Did you ever play the alphabet game, or try to find a license plate from every state? And while the highways offered adventure, they also brought new challenges. With speed increased, so did the need for seatbelts and safer cars, a conversation that echoed across living rooms and Congress alike. The 70s saw great advances in road safety and consumer advocacy, fueled by figures like Ralph Nader, whose book, Unsafe at Any Speed, pushed automakers to make cars safer for young explorers and weary drivers alike. Few recall that by 1975, every new car sold in America had to have seatbelts installed, not that every kid was eager to wear them just yet. So, as we look back at the roots of the 1970s road trip, we see more than just nostalgia. We see a tapestry woven from the strands of optimism, invention, challenge, and unity. Roads and highways are more than concrete. They are the unspooling thread that connected families, communities, and generations, fostering a sense of adventure that lasted long after the last bag was unpacked. What memories do you cherish from those early days? Was it your first glimpse of a new state, a sleepy sunrise at a rest stop, or the simple joy of being together on a journey? And yet the magic wasn't only in the preparation or the history, it was also in the very cars themselves, faithful companions built for adventure. But if you think it was just about the family station wagon, wait until you see how the vehicles we loved and relied on helped to define an entire era's sense of journey. As we reach the end of our journey down the highways and byways of the 1970s, the memories seem to come rushing back in waves, the rhythmic hum of tires on pavement, the laughter echoing from the back seat, and the way the world unfolded slowly, mile after mile, through a bug-splattered windshield. We've revisited how the rise of the Interstate Highway System set the stage, transforming what was once an arduous trek into an open invitation for families and friends to explore America in ways both ordinary and extraordinary. The family station wagon, with its wood paneling and roomy back seat, became a symbol of freedom and possibility. Half vehicle, half mobile living room, while gas station maps, AAA TripTiks and hand-scrawled directions kept us on course, even when the urge to chase a hand-painted roadside sign lured us off the main drag. Throughout the 70s, these road trips weren't just a means of travel, they were the centerpiece of summer breaks, the setting of countless inside jokes, sibling squabbles, and quiet moments of wonder, cornfields blurred into mountain ridges and distant city lights, every stop at a mom-and-pop diner, every night spent in a modest motel room, and every scenic overlook was woven into a kind of living scrapbook, pages filled by sunburnt cheeks, sticky fingers from melting roadside ice cream, and that unmistakable sense of anticipation as the next adventure waited just ahead. Even the small inconveniences, the cranky car radio, the sticky summer seats, the occasional wrong turn, are remembered now with a fondness that brings a smile. Those shared experiences, the ones where the journey so often trumped the destination, helped shape not only our appreciation for adventure, but also our understanding of home, family, and Americana itself. Looking back, it isn't just the destinations that linger, but the smaller moments in between, the songs belted out over the static of an AM dial, the thrill of a new city skyline coming into view, the hushed conversations as headlights danced over roadside billboards late at night. As the decades have marched on, and as travel has changed so much with digital devices and instant navigation, it's worth considering what those hours in the car gave us. Maybe it was patience, learning to savor the slow pace and simple joys. Maybe it was resilience, weathering flat tires or rainstorms with a sense of adventure. Or maybe it was the unique feeling of togetherness that only comes from sharing a confined space, racing across long stretches of the American landscape, hearts open to whatever lay ahead. What is it about those 1970s road trips that you remember most? Was it the anticipation before pulling out of the driveway, the sights and sounds that filled the journey, or the stories and laughter you still share today with those who were there? Take a moment to reflect on the journeys that shaped your youth and what you learned from the open road. I'd love for you to share your most cherished road trip memories in the comments below. What route did your family take, and which rest stops, motels, or unexpected adventures do you still talk about decades later? If this trip down memory lane resonated with you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel for more nostalgic journeys, and share it with friends who remember the thrill of a packed car on a summer's day. And as you go about your day, may you carry a bit of that 70s spirit, the excitement of the open road, the joy of discovery, and the warmth of good company, knowing the best journeys are often the ones with no set destination.